Everyone. Welcome. I'm Erica Wilhite. I'm the Arts Learning and Communities Director at the Oklahoma Arts Council, and I oversee the Creative Aging Initiative. These are programs that are offered to improve the quality of life for older adults in Oklahoma. And our initiative is designed to build capacity across our state for community-based arts education. And we do this through grant funding, but also through professional development, such as workshops and conferences and a creative aging webinar series like this one today. So thanks for joining us. Today's webinar is Revitalizing Voices, the Impact of Songs by Heart on Memory Care. And we're going to hear from Tulsa Opera, Danny Kyle, talk about their program, Songs by Heart. This is a program that uses professional level singers to create enriching, interactive experiences in memory care communities. And just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you need captioning, it is available in Zoom by selecting it from the menu on the bottom. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording, as well as other resources that are shared in this webinar, will be emailed to you approximately a week from today. And use the chat to drop any questions in that you may have for the presenter, for Danny today, or for myself. We'll be watching the chat, and we'll be able to field those questions to Danny and when they come up. And I think Danny also is going to let this be pretty interactive as well. And we will save a little time at the end for a Q&A. So Danny Kyle is the Director of Community Engagement at Tulsa Opera. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Danny, so you can tell us a little bit more about yourself and your program.
Thank you so much, Erica. No, I am not an opera singer. My background is as a theater director, and I started as an assistant director for the opera. Sure, I can read music because I played the flute in seventh grade, right? Have learned a ton since 2017 when I worked on my first professional opera and joined the staff full time in 2020 to build our community programs. It's been a lot of fun. I've gotten to create things from the ground up, and we have 35,000 touch points a year in our engagement programming. One of those is Songs by Heart, where we are connecting with our seniors, mostly in memory care units. And I'm really excited to brag to you all about the awesome program that I am privileged and honored to get to manage. I don't perform in it except as an accessory dancer. So I won't be singing today. So, the mission of Songs by Heart, which is an organization that started in Chicago in 2015, is connecting people with memory loss to the language and joy of music. And I just really appreciate the joy as a part of their mission because it's true. The song and the music we share just improves quality of life. So we know that the aging population is surging right now, and that then there are impacts on healthcare costs. And with the growth of the aging population, there will be a larger and larger portion of our population who is impacted with dementia and Alzheimer's. And I want to put emphasis on the fact that this includes the stress on caregivers. And so, one really positive thing about Songs by Heart you might not think about at first is that an interactive sing along program is beneficial for every person in that room. It is so fun and engaging and just brings a smile to people's faces. So this video was really exciting to get to make. We got art funding through our community funding through Opera America, our national organization as a professional opera company, for civic engagement. And they wanted us to take that seed money and build out how we would expand this program, get it started, and then impact more and more people. So this promotional video explains the highlights of the program, and hopefully draws you in. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy. Tulsa Opera has been a part of this community for over 75 years. We know the great impact that performing arts can have on the community, our continued civic engagement, and our chance to share songs by heart with memory care patients is just one of the many great programs we're doing.
Songs by Heart is so inspiring. And when you go to a location, what you see is a process.
It is a combination of singing, so some vocal exercises and some physical exercises that we put together to have a lot of fun.
The sense of community at a Songs by Heart session is so powerful, and it grows over the course of the 45 minutes.
After 2, 3 songs, they'll start to get into it. They'll start smiling. They'll start moving their hands and gesturing.
We have a lot of songs that people love to wag their fingers to. We get them physically involved by, it's as simple as a toe tap. And some of the best moments have been like all of a sudden people will stand up and they'll want to move, they'll want to dance.
I'll notice residents reaching out to each other and holding hands or tapping their friend's shoulder. And it's really nice to see them all enjoying the music together.
I think it's wonderful. Oh, it was really energizing. The people listening are all enjoying and participating.
Music is good for people like that because they hear it and they want to repeat it. Well, I always feel good after a group gets together.
But it is surprising to me how they take to it. I see the joy and I see the fun that comes through them. It's less about the storytelling and more about the engagement. And that's what's so special about this program.
I have seen Songs by Heart positively impact so many participants. I saw a man leave a session once conducting down the hallway, and I thought that music's going to stay with him, and the rest of his day is probably a little bit brighter.
Science has proved that with singing, it impacts the brain. But what happens is singing something that's familiar to the recipient, it fires up the neurons.
You can feel, it's not just about seeing them come alive, but you can feel it. When you guys turn on your magic, they spruce up. Something happens. Something magically happens. This was music from their times and they loved it. And it just warmed my heart to see how alive they were. It brings out the best in them.
It's like turning on the lights for some of these folks for a little while. It gives them these moments of pure joy.
It is proven to be beneficial. It brings life out of your loved one. And I would love for everyone to witness just what happens,
They might not be able to respond anymore, but they hear you. So why not let them hear? If we can't take them to see Wicked, we can bring Wicked to them, can't we?
It's wonderful to hear people, come back, come back. This has been such a joy. And, even getting to visit with folks at the end, I find at the end of every session that people want to talk, they want to say hi.
A lot of them are saying, can we have this more often?
The more moments we can create for our residents like that, that's gold. This is a bright light. This is hope. This helps this place be better.
Currently, we have an Opera America grant that is helping us fund the initial phases of this program and its continued growth. And then we're relying on the good news of this program that we can get more supporters for Tulsa Opera.
My hope is that people would support Tulsa Opera Songs by Heart. We want to reach as many people as we can and change as many lives as we can.
So we feel very optimistic that we're on the start of something that's significant. We need partners and we need financial support to do that. 10 years from now, there's going to be a much larger population over 70, 80, and 90. So Songs by Heart can be an integral part of going forward for an opera company such as Tulsa Opera.
We hope you support Tulsa Opera and Songs by Heart so that we can touch more and more residents with this amazing program.
You're wonderful.
That kind of choked me up. Some of those residents aren't with us anymore. And also, those filming days were some of the first times we did it without masks on. And I remember how much more connected we felt. So I hadn't watched that in a while, and that, ooh. Um, okay. So we touched on this a little bit in the video, but music has a huge impact on all areas of our brain. And this map of the mind sort of shows us that. And research in this really started in the 1990s when we had huge advancements in brain imagery. Apologies for that. So we've got some sensory cortex involved because there is a physical aspect happening here. And so not just the dancing there, but if they were shaking some maracas or anything like that, we're getting some tactile feedback, as well as their visual cortex being involved, which in this graphic, they talk about reading music, but it's also watching the performer. And I've seen engagement in that way, from not taking in the world to, oh, what's happening here, and following that visually. And then of course the auditory perception for the sound and tone coming in. And then interestingly, the emotional aspects of the brain and where it touches there, we've got the cerebellum, and I don't know how to say this, the nucleus accumbens and the amygdala all have these emotional reactions to music happening and firing that up. So both the positive and some more difficult emotions can get their brain firing. And a fun one is thinking about our prefrontal cortex. So this is where anticipation happens. And you can think about that with melody. We anticipate how it's going to resolve. And then it's not just the anticipation, but also the result of the satisfaction or the like, whoa, that didn't end the way I thought it was, which can also be really fun. Some of our sopranos and the tenor will take the end of the song up an octave and really show off, and that excites the participants. So we've got everything happening all over the brain. So the corpus callosum, which is the communicator between the left and right hemisphere, also gets involved when we're listening and participating in music creation. The inspiration behind this program is personal. It was started by Nancy Gustafson, who's a professional opera singer based in Chicago. She works at Northwestern, and her mother had advanced dementia. And in October of 2014, Nancy went out to California to visit her mother and was very saddened by how quickly her health was declining. She saw her mother sitting in a wheelchair, unable to recognize Nancy and unable to join in any type of conversation. Nancy felt that her mother just looked so lost, like lost to express herself, lost within herself. And she just couldn't put together two words, and Nancy's heart was broken. She didn't know what to do with the visit. So she decided that she would try to get her mother to sing with her, and she started playing on the piano. The piano is not Nancy's instrument. She is a singer, but she was trying on some Christmas carols. Even though it was October, she felt that was her best in. And slowly her mom started singing along, kind of hanging in there with Nancy's not so great piano playing. And after about 15 minutes, Nancy stopped playing and looked at her, and her mother said, "You know, that's not very good." But Nancy almost cried. She was so happy because her mom had actually expressed a thought, a brutally honest thought, but she expressed a thought to her, and they laughed together over that. And then Nancy told her mom she'll choose some easier pieces for the piano, and they kept singing only in the key of C. And after another few songs, and mom starting to really sing along with Nancy, she was able to talk again and said, "Well, you're getting better." And Nancy laughed with her and joked if they improved enough, they could take the show on the road to some shopping malls at Christmas time and earn some extra money. Without missing a beat, her mother replied, "Yeah, the Gustafson family singers." And that was the moment that Nancy knew she had a mission. She didn't want another day to go by where her mother or others like her mother were sitting alone in their rooms, disconnected from the room, lost, depressed, frightened. Knowing that music has the power to help connect people with memory loss to the world around them, to each other, and to just the joy of music, Nancy went back to Chicago, called on some friends, and together they created this program that harnesses the power of music and aims to improve the everyday lives of people like her mom. And her goal, her vision for the world is a place where everyone with Alzheimer's or dementia has songs by heart programming and access to singing along to music. So let me give you some details about Songs by Heart. Songs by Heart is an engagement-centered program. It was developed specifically to take into memory care communities. A professional level singer will lead a very interactive sing-along and have an accompaniment by a piano player. The singers, apologies. The singers use therapeutic techniques like mirroring, verbal and gestural prompting, making direct eye contact, which is very impactful, and holding hands with the residents throughout the program. You'll notice in this picture, our singer is kneeling down, and that really helps with the direct eye contact and engagement because the residents are in wheelchairs or in their own chairs. And if you think about it, them looking up all the time at the world and everyone who's taking care of them isn't comfortable and it's not in their perception of the world. So getting down at their level really helps it with the engagement. Singers encourage the residents to join in the singing with clapping, the dancing, and then they also have the opportunity to engage in conversations that are inspired by the musical selections. These sessions are 45 minutes and can occur as often as 5 days a week, and we recommend at least once a week. They have a lot of success with the once a week programming in the Chicago area. Here in the Tulsa area, I can see the difference in the communities where we are there every other week and they have us in twice a month compared to the places that we are going that is just once a month or sometimes once every other month. And we know that we're competing with other activities. Bingo can be a popular one, for example, but it's a very engaging mind inspiring program. So we really want people doing song and getting the arts into the senior centers. We do charge for this program, but only the cost of the artist. So all the funding goes right to the artist from this, and we rely on grants and donations to cover administrative costs. The personnel of that singer and piano player, we try to keep the same people going back to the same communities because then they learn which songs they're in love with, which ones they really like. There's one community, if we didn't sing an Elvis song every time, I think they would kick us out. You know, that's really their jam over there. And then the singers also see the impact and the growth from people. We take formative memory songs into the session. The singers will come with a book of more songs than they could perform in that 45 minutes. About 20 seems to cover it because they're going to ride the energy level of the crowd. They're going to meet the residents where they're at and sort of guide them through maybe raising up that energy and engagement, maybe then going into some slower, more emotional songs, and then ending on a happy high note as well. But they have to be ready for what comes up. So they sort of have ample opportunity to skip over songs, or if the residents have sort of spent their energy, they improvise and they might say, hey, we're going to let the piano player take a solo here. Just listen and see if you know this one. And then conversation can spark after they've guessed it, or some of the more enthusiastic participants might start singing along. Take Me Out to the Ball Game right at the top of this list is a great song that sparks a lot of conversation. So often when we present this song in a program, we'll sing it twice. And the first time through, we root, root, root for the home team. And then the next time we take a pause and we say, well, who is a favorite baseball team? And we hear stories about, going to the Mets, walking down the street to see the Mets baseball with their father. Or, oh, I like the Drillers in Tulsa, and that's pretty fun. We had one conversation with Take Me Out to the Ball Game about Cracker Jack specifically. And the lady remembered, she said, oh, the prizes, that just zinged into my head and I hadn't thought about it in years. And the word she used, zinged, really let me know things were firing in her mind, right? The music was inspiring more activity in her brain there. Uh, Others that aren't on this list, a lot of church songs engage people. Um, Musicals from the golden age of musicals can be really great, like Edelweiss. Oh, that's on there. But these are really fun to sing songs. And then folk tunes like You Are My Sunshine that we heard in the video. That's a really nice opening song we find. Okay, I'm gonna play that video. And this woman in the pink wheelchair, sort of to the right, she's very engaged. And I think we'll see a ton of cognitive activity going on in how she's engaging in this program. So I'll get that going. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And I'd love to hear from you all what you're seeing in her interaction and engagement in the video.
Honestly, I was kind of back and forth between, is she mirroring, or is that memories drawing up from some other, was she in musicals before or dancing or I don't know. It, I, this is so touching to me too. I cared for my mother-in-law. She passed away earlier this year with dementia. And we didn't have, she was in the memory care for such a short amount of time that we didn't have programming like this, but oh my goodness, what a wonderful program for patients with dementia. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that and for your personal connection to the work. Um, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about her being in the possibility of her being in musicals. And then that is maybe a memory even of just mirroring the choreographer who was teaching it at the time. That's fascinating to think about. Yeah. She claps for a while too, which is going to give her a tactile feedback in her work as well. This is a good picture too of the balance that the performers have to have as Paige is the singer here. She's engaging that whole group because it's a very high energy song. And that one-on-one engagement can work really well when you're at like the individual level. Okay. So we see immediate impact in these sessions. It's quite literally seeing people wake up. There'll be folks like this gentleman, this is from the Chicago people. Um, this gentleman starting the session sleepy and ending the session more engaged and in it. There can be different levels of wake up. Sometimes it's just someone who is sleeping in a reclined wheelchair, but the music's getting in there and they're mouthing along. Sometimes with that, for engagement, a singer might come by and just tap the rhythm on their arm or their leg, especially on if they're a sleepier resident on maybe one of the slower songs like Edelweiss might be nice to do that for. And sometimes there's bigger wake ups. We definitely get the clue that a nonverbal resident has started singing for the first time in a long time when the staff starts taking video to send to families. And it's really exciting to be a part of those moments. There was one Saturday session that we did, and a woman started singing and wagging her finger to don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. And they called her husband and said, "We know you're coming in for lunch later. Get here as soon as you can." And when he got there, the singer went back to Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree so that they could sing it together. And they were wagging their fingers at each other singing. So that was one of those moments where I thought this is bringing joy and some hopeful stress relief to the caretaker as well. So we know that the memories of music might be some of the last to leave. Um, Music evoked emotions and memories are often really preserved in Alzheimer's patients' brains. So listening to those familiar songs enhance their self-consciousness and identity. And it can really then jump to performance improvement in verbal and autobiographical memory. They'll start talking about things they haven't thought about in years. And I feel like I personally understand this if you put on an album from the late 90s that I listened to on repeat. All of a sudden, like I remember wearing vanilla body wash in high school, right? These memories just associated with that come back to me. It's really amazing that we're not just a music program. There's an event happening and it's engaging people who have various cognitive levels, right? A memory care unit might have early stage, middle stage, and late stage Alzheimer's patients all together, but there's something happening in the environment that there's peace and happiness and contentment and that sense of community happening. So these are some of the immediate effects. And then we see some long-term benefits here in stress reduction, improved self-confidence, social interaction and cognitive function, enhanced self-awareness, and improved verbal and autobiographical memory, like I mentioned. Um, I think about Roberta here on the right, dancing with her activity director. Um, she's one of those wake up stories. She um, came into our first session at her community and she didn't even watch where they were kind of leading her. And she came in with her husband who lived in the assisted living side of the facility. And she kind of shuffled in and seemed really lost. But when the music started, she started following with her eyes. So her visual cortex was engaged. And then as it went on, she started swaying her arms, and then here she is up and dancing. She was also in the video, which was from a different day from this picture, and she loved that program. And when I think about the long-term impacts, there's a resident at a different facility called Doug. I'll call him Doug. He's one of the younger men that we see participating in the program. And I remember the first time we were at his community, and it was the first time I had witnessed the program have this deep of an emotional impact on someone. Over the Rainbow hit something in him. And Doug is nonverbal and often very agitated. So he probably only sat with us for one or two songs that time. He didn't make any eye contact with the singer, but when she was singing the song, he just had tears streaming down his face. And we find that some of those songs, like God Bless America and Amazing Grace, they hit some intense emotions with people. And our singer, which was one of the more experienced singers from Chicago, stayed with him and held his hand until the end of the song. And then respectfully at the end of the song, she thanked him for sharing that moment with her and thought and also said how wonderful it is that music can touch our emotions that deep. It's a beautiful thing about being human. And then I watched her expertly craft the next few moments to come out of that emotional event that had happened. But now we've been in Doug's unit for 2 years, twice a month. And for many of the first months, Doug would be agitated walking around, going in and out of his private room that was right off the activity area. But we've started to see him stay for longer and longer. In June of 2023, the singer, who's been like the singer there almost the whole time, reported that he did hand motions for the first time. And I remember she actually said one of the nonverbal residents did hand motions for the first time. And I just called her. Was it Doug? It was Doug. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for him. And then that was in June. By the fall, her comments were that he was staying more and more and being more and more involved. And in January of this year, he stayed in the session for the whole 45 minutes. And I don't hear a lot about him anymore because I'm assuming he's participating like all of the other wonderful residents in his community. It's really great to know what a good impact that has had on Doug's life. Uh, this quote has always seemed so important to me. Those with Alzheimer's have lost their voice. Songs by Heart helps them find it. One of the things I've learned working more closely with this population of dementia patients is that we don't know how dementia will affect your personality. You could be a joyful, optimistic person, and then as the disease intensifies, you become stressed out, agitated, not a nice person. Or you could be a very serious person, and as the disease progresses, you become joyful and childlike. You just don't know. And there's a woman, uh, Jane or JJ, who I think loves songs. I know she loves songs by heart. And we come into her community and she bustles over with her walker. She's got short hair and a little tiny body. And she bustles over. Well, who are you? We're Tulsa Opera songs by heart. Well, what are you going to do? We're going to sing and dance. Do you want to join us? Ooh, I love singing and dancing. She won't sit down. She's in her walker for the beginning of the session, dancing along. And by halfway through the session, JJ leaves the walker behind. And she's in it and she's getting her other residents dancing with her. It's amazing to see. She loves, loves, loves the program. But every time, who are you? What are we doing today? Our songs by heart. We're going to dance. Oh, I love dancing. We're going to sing. Oh, I love singing and a big smile on her face and full participation. One day, the chef came out of the kitchen and pulled me over. Who are you? Same question that JJ asks. We're Tulsa Opera songs by heart. And the chef says, well, I wish you could come every day. I've never seen that woman smile. and pointed right at JJ. Honestly, I didn't fully believe that. So on the way out, I kind of asked the receptionist, like, this is what happened with the chef. What's going on? And the receptionist said, oh, no, JJ, she's real salty. But that is not the woman that we know. When we go and share music with her, she is pure joy. Um, Let me pause right now in this and see what questions you might have. No questions right now? Okay. Well, then I will keep going. All right. So, how can you get involved? First, if you're with a facility in Green Country, Northeast Oklahoma, contact me. Tulsa Opera offers a complimentary session, and we would love to come out and meet your residents. We encourage when we do this that you invite your families, your donors, your important executives. When they see this program, they will be wowed by it and want to invest in it. If you're an artist, if you're a singer, contact me. I want you to come see a session, and then you can start to think, could I do this myself? Could I share this in senior centers myself? But I think once you see it, then you might know your capacity to be able to do it. Um, and then I also think about the ways music is used throughout our lives. When we have children, parents are encouraged to sing during daily activities to help build vocabulary. So I always think, why aren't we singing with this population all the time? You can add music everywhere. It may be tricky to make the technology work for them to play music in the background, but even playing music would be beneficial. Um, Tulsa Opera built this program with the thought of how is this going to be sustainable? So we made sure we identified funders who would help us with this work. We wanted to be sure that we were compensating our artists, because while there's a lot of joy in this work, there's also difficulty. It is very emotional. We also, Tulsa Opera has worked with partners like the Alzheimer's Association and kept ongoing relationship with the Chicago Songs by Heart to continue to provide training to our singers. So we started training our singers with the music therapist who developed Songs by Heart with Nancy Gustafson, and she trained them on the therapeutic techniques, explaining to them how that was stimulating different parts of the brain. And she gave them an overview of the impact of Alzheimer's and dementia. Then the training continued with the music therapist in person, where we would observe her leading a session, and then slowly scaffolding in the newer singers with more and more leadership responsibilities in the session, and then side coaching along the way. We almost immediately, once we launched the Songs by Heart program, Alzheimer's Association of Oklahoma reached out to us to become partners, and it has been the best partnership. They have given us incredible training resources and support for promoting this. In especially two programs that their community programs offer to caretakers was the progression of the disease, and then the current research and treatment on the disease. And I appreciated their communication with dementia patients training, which sort of talked about different during the different stages. So early stage, the disease might show up like this, and communication tactics for communicating at that point in the disease, all the way through to the late stages. And my big takeaway from that was while we don't have a cure for this disease, we have many cures for improving the quality of life. So we can lean into that. And the Alzheimer's Association also offered our singers a very special training just for that I think they developed for our singers because I was concerned about the emotional impact this type of work can have on the stress level of the performers. And so they presented a building your emotional self-care toolbox training for us, and it became significantly important as the work has gone on. I have had a couple of singers leave the program, but most want to stay because of the impact that they have. And we had one singer who had an encounter, and I just want to give a let everyone know that this next story, the content includes suicide and depression. So if you would prefer to opt out, I will not be offended. So the singer was leading a session in a community he hadn't been in a while. He was substituting for someone. And a patient connected with him deeply during a song and started talking with him about how bad he feels and that he's planning to kill himself. So major red flags for our singer who who stayed with the gentleman, and he asked the piano player to play the next song for everyone to do a guessing game, see if you know it, so the singer could stay engaged in the conversation with this depressed and suicidal resident, and was able to get a nurse over and checked in with the nurse that this is what had happened. And the nurse said, "Oh, yes, that happens to this gentleman. He is depressed." So Sam, our singer, continued on with the session, and afterwards, in his report, included that that had happened. And one thing we have on our session reports is the option to have someone contact them from management, from Chicago, as well as to me. And so the operations director in Chicago reached out to Sam and let him know he did everything right and reminded him that depression, unfortunately, is a part of this disease. And so it wasn't that man, it was the disease coming through in that symptom, right? But Sam also told me because of that training to build their emotional self-care toolbox, he felt he had been given permission that after that session, he cried in his car and he took the time to do that. And then he took himself out to lunch and got a milkshake, right? Just a little treat because he had done something tough. And we checked in, the next day and a couple of days later and a week later. And Sam is really glad he took that time for himself to take care for himself. So, Tulsa Opera didn't just jump into songs by heart blind. Before I even started with the company, we had established relationships with senior centers where we would perform opera concerts. So this was great because I had connections to the activity directors at these communities and many more throughout the Tulsa area. And I could call them to schedule a flurry of sessions to first tease the program for them. So we had our experts from Chicago come visit us in September of 2022, and we were all masked and went into these senior centers, sometimes to the memory care unit, meeting people we had never seen before who hadn't been a part of our opera concerts. And we did a ton of sessions all in a week while they were here, and then waved goodbye to our new friends. We'll see you soon. They came back in November and we did another flurry of sessions where we trained our local singers. So I've explained the training already, that it's done over the course of many days with opportunities to practice their newly developed therapeutic skills in the sessions. The big difference for our performers is the difference between performing and giving to the audience. And in Songs by Heart, they're learning to co-create. So that reading of the energy level, observing how energetic the participants are at the beginning and meeting them where they're at to then grow and expand the excitement and enthusiasm with more high energy songs. I will say our singers have had to learn some stamina to be able to do this program. If they're wearing an athletic watch that tracks their activity, they're getting a lot of steps in. So after our initial training with the singers, we did give them several, maybe a couple months where they were partnered. And so they wouldn't do a session alone. We would have two singers and one piano player, which helped with the stamina, which helped with the co-creation and observing the energy levels. We're still continually connecting with new communities and getting the word out. So if you know anyone, tell them the first one's free and we want to come meet them. We also just started a free community session at the Tulsa Opera offices. In fact, it's going to start in about 10 minutes. So if you hear some singing in the background, that's what's going on. And that one is intended for people who are aging in place at their houses. And I really encourage people, the whole family should come. It's fun for everyone. We have a grandma who's coming with her daughter and with her granddaughter and great great grandchild sometimes, participating all together. Because we do sing kids songs too, like If You're Happy and You Know It, clap your hands. It's pretty fun. So we get the whole family involved in it. We have more information on our website, so that QR code will take you there. And this picture with Sam and Paige in it, this is a very, very high active group. And so sometimes when you have a very active group of folks, I'll still send out two singers to keep everyone engaged and excited about it. So now is time for questions.
Is there a way to bring this to other parts of the state?
I love that question because that's what I want to do. I'm envisioning that as a long-term goal here. I'm very happy that my department just grew by half a person. He's not a full-time dedicated engagement person, but we do have half a person now working here. And so we're looking at that in terms of potentially bringing singers to Tulsa to get an intensive training over a weekend or a week, and then funding to have our trainer go out and coach them out there. I think I need connections to piano players across the state who don't have day jobs. But then we could really make that happen. And I especially want to bring it to places that might be like the healthcare deserts and more rural areas too. So if we can identify singers who are in those areas and would want to do work like this, I think we could centrally train them here in Tulsa in our communities and then have them, go out in the world and we can support them from afar, just like how Chicago still supports us. We would support them and have this chain of support going on. I really do hope we can get to Oklahoma City for sure. It's a natural place to start expanding it, and then we need to get out to Enid and that kind of thing. Are there any artists on the call? Any singers? Um, so are there people who are activities directors and involved in programming and memory care units? I'm curious from you what the barriers might be to having this program be a bigger part or even just a little part of your activities.
I have a question for you, Danny. Um, for us that have folks in our lives that could benefit from this program, uh, would you recommend any techniques just without getting the formal training, but how to implement some of
Yeah.
this work with our loved ones?
Yeah, if it's a person that you know and love, you probably know the music and the songs that they love. So why not put on that CD for them or play that, you know, Spotify channel for them and sing along with them? Simply taking their hands when the music is playing can ground them in the moment and bring them there with you. And so you might start connecting more on eye contact or in that way. Um, I think for me personally, I remember my mom singing You Are My Sunshine to me as a kid. And I think that even turning that around and singing You Are My Sunshine now to aging parents or aging folks in your life can be a really beautiful, beautiful thing. And so that's kind of what I mean about bringing music everywhere. I think about like toddlers in the bath, and we sing about washing different parts of our bodies. So why not sing about that when you're taking care of someone, or if we're eating or cleaning something up, there's fun songs for that. So you can just bring those out. And if you practice a spiritual practice, you can sing those songs as well. They're very deep in that hippocampus memory there. And for the therapeutic techniques too that you can use, you might notice the dementia patients might not have the rhythm right away because of an agitation or an energy level, but stick with them. You can tap the rhythm for them and they will start to join in. Um, I can think of a woman who like clapped every 16th note, and I just stayed like steady with her, and she calmed down to that rhythm and engaged deeper with the song then. Oh, Grace, I would have loved to come to your community too, and that community probably misses you. Yes, I definitely think senior center, community senior centers are a great place for us. We're looking at Life Senior Services here in Tulsa and deepening our partnership with them.
So,
I'm
Danny,
reading your comments. Yeah,
okay.
I bet her eyes lit up with the memories. Oh, that's the activity directors also receive a lot of joy from this program. And I I imagine it's a very difficult job because I've seen the turnover over my time with Tulsa Opera. And the ones who are in the communities that we can have this program more often and they have the space to be involved in the singing and dancing, those are the communities I don't see the turnover in. And I see the same activity director for 2 years. The one in the video, um, she's been there for 3 or 4 years at least. I just met her when we started this. So, yeah, Marissa, Legend at Tulsa Hills. I think she's got great team around her and she just loves those residents and gets to sing and dance with us twice a month.
I am curious, Danny, about for those that, you're returning to regularly for, 2 years in that case, um, do you provide any kind of training, or does it just kind of seep into the culture there after a while, to
Mhm.
the activity directors, the other staff at these residences? What I'm just curious about you seeing any kind of culture shift or the practice
Mhm.
kind of trickling through and carrying on.
That's interesting. Um, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to do more on that, actually. Thank you for the ideas, Erica. Um, we've had to train the audience in terms of this is the opera concert time, this is the sing-along time, because we still do our opera concerts as well. So that's been a shift. And people learning which one that they want to opt into. And I think I've seen more activity directors get more confident in how they're participating. So I told you right away, I'm not a singer. I am more confident in my singing, participating in this. And I've seen that also for some of the activity directors and staff.
Mm. So, if we do have a question after this webinar and we want to just follow the work and hopefully get involved, either bringing you to our community or going to Tulsa, how can we do that? I know you had a QR code up earlier, and Danny's dropping her email in the chat there. Thank you, Danny. And it's so exciting to hear that you do have the goals to expand across the state. So this is definitely a program to follow.
Yes. And if you're someone who would like to help us expand across the state because you have contacts of musicians in your area or you have a facility that would love to have us, please send that information to me. We're going to be looking at that expansion planning the end of our fiscal year. We're a July to June and implementing it in next fiscal year.
Wonderful.
I put my phone number in as well. If you're more of a talker, I don't mind. And I'm actually going on a 10-day PTO here coming up. So if you don't hear from me, that's why. I'll get to you in November.
That's great. Danny, this presentation has been so inspiring. I had the pleasure, the privilege of witnessing this program in action, and I was so excited. I came back to the Arts Council and shared it with our staff, and I just have a lot of faith in the power of the arts to impact. But seeing it firsthand was really something to behold. I would encourage everyone to get in touch with Danny with any other questions, or if you have a singing group, a choral group, an opera group in your community, let them know about this program. And I will be following up to everyone with an email with the link to this recording, and that will give you the opportunity to share widely with your communities, your board for your organization, your staff. I'd love to just get the awareness out about the amazing impact of this program. So thank you so much, Danny, for your work. And thank you for this incredible presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like it's my duty to share the good news about this program.
Okay. Well, with that, we will wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this webinar. And we will be in touch soon with some resources in that email.